Welcome all, and thank you for checking out this video. Now, I have used Lioranboard to control my streams for quite a while now, and I've always known it's quite a powerful program, but I didn't realise quite how powerful until recently when we decided to program an entire game into Lioranboard. Let me show you how we did it. So if you're familiar with the channel, you'll know that I occasionally partake in speedrunning Final Fantasy IX. So what we've done with the game is tried to emulate that final battle with Necron inside OBS. Let me show you how it works. It's all run off of chat commands. So if I pop in the word Necron into chat, up he pops on screen there. Also my available characters pop up there, and I'm able to do certain things. For example, revive Steiner. Freya will drop away because her turn has been used and we'll need to wait for her to pop up again. We get a blue shockwave, as Necron would do in the final battle. Eventually Freya and Steiner will pop up and we can use their names to start launching attacks or doing other commands. So there we go, there's Steiner. So let's just go, Freya can attack, Steiner can attack. We could bring back Zidane. There's all sorts of things we can do. But let's go into how we've made this work. So here we are in Lioranboard with all the commands that I use to control my stream. But the ones we're going to pay attention to are these ones down here, as these are the commands to control the boss battle. Let's have a look in the Necron command, as that's where everything starts. What we do is we're going to set up a whole load of variables first of all, and a variable is simply something that could change. So for example, we have Zidane's life, Steiner's command, Zidane's command, Freya's command, as there's multiple different things we can do with them. We also have markers for whether or not our fight is active or whether we've won or lost. You'll notice we also have variables for our participant count and our entry count, as these are going to become important later on. So once we've set up all of our variables, we're going to have a few things change, a few things pop up on screen. We're going to make sure that Necron arrives on screen. So we've got the scene name, Mosh Pit. I don't know why it's in Mosh Pit, but it is. Item, Necron, and that's going to be visible true. So that's going to appear. Same goes for Freya, but we want to make sure that Steiner and Zidane are not visible, because at the start of the speedrun, they are dead. We have a chat message down here, basically informing the players as to how to play the game. It tells us that Necron has 45,100 health, and we've got to beat him. So once the fight has started, Necron's going to go through a specific set of instructions, but it's going to check to see if it's been beaten each time. So after 15 seconds, we're going to check, using this if statement here, if my variable win is equal to 0. If that is the case, then we will blue shockwave. In other words, we've not won yet, so launch an attack. It's going to do that a further 3 times. So we've got one at 30, we've got one at 45, and we've got one at 60. Now, if all 4 blue shockwaves pass, and we have not yet beaten Necron at 75 seconds, it's going to check that win counter again. If it still says 0, it goes into its game over phase. Essentially, we're going to get a Grand Cross animation, and it's going to wipe out your party. And that's all detailed in here, just things showing up and disappearing at set times. So the battle script itself isn't actually all that complicated, but when we have a look at the character commands, things get a little bit more spicy. Now things are split into 2 columns at the moment. We have a command script and we have an action script. Let's have a look at Zidane, as he's probably the simplest of the 3 characters. So here we are inside Zidane's command script. And the first thing we're going to do is find out who actually issued the command. So we're going to use this math trigger pool to get a hold of the person's username. And we're going to write that into our variable username. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to check a stack. Now a stack is simply a stack of information that we can pull values from at any time. So our stack, called fight participants, we're going to check and see whether that username already exists in the list. Now the first slot in a stack is slot 0. So if the username comes back as -1, it means it's not in that list currently. So we're going to want to add it into the list. If it is any other value, then we're going to skip this process to avoid getting duplicate usernames in our stack. So now that we have the username of the person issuing the command memorized, let's figure out what they actually want Zidane to do. Now Zidane only has 1 real command, but we still need to figure out whether or not he can do it. So maths trigger pool once again. This time we're going to grab a hold of the message rather than the username. And we're going to write this into our Z command variable. We then have an if statement. Our if statement is going to check whether or not our Z command is equal to a certain phrase. In this case, it is just Zidane issuing an attack. We are then going to do a secondary if command. This if command is going to check whether or not Zidane is actually alive. If it is the case, then we will launch the attack on Necron and we will remove Zidane's sprite from the field, showing that he is no longer available for command. There's a little overtime run here, so after 20 seconds, Zidane will pop back up onto the battlefield, showing that he is once more available. If, for any reason, Zidane is not alive, we have this else command down here. So what we're going to do is we're going to type a message and we're going to put it up in chat, and it's going to say Zidane is currently knocked out, revive Zidane to bring him back. Okay, and we're going to change the Z command back to 0. We have an additional else command at the bottom of this script for if the button is activated without a command being present. Now this is for when Freya revives Zidane. We want Zidane to go through the waiting process before he's available for action, but we don't want him to actually do anything. So we just have this overtime duration 18 seconds before he can make a move. And speaking of Freya, why don't we go and have a look at her script to see what she can do? Now Freya is far more complex than Zidane, as she has 3 possible actions she can do. She can revive Zidane, revive Steiner, or attack. As before, we have the little bit of script that's going to pinch the username of the person that issued the command and store it for later. But after that, we have another set of if statements. So we're going to use master trigger pool to check the message to see what the message actually was. So if statement. If the F command is equal to revive Zidane, we're going to then go another if statement. We're going to check whether or not Zidane is already alive. So if Z life is equal to 0, then we'll go through the process of reviving him. So we're going to change the variable to 1 to show he is now alive. A little message will pop up in chat saying you have revived Zidane. He will be available soon. We're going to make sure that Freya's sprite disappears from the battlefield to show that she is no longer available. And we're going to wait 20 seconds until she reappears. And we're also going to trigger button ID 96. Now that was the one we were just looking at for Zidane's commands. If, for any reason, Zidane is already alive, when we try to issue this command, we'll get this else down here. Twitch chat message, Zidane is already alive. She also has an attack command, just like Zidane. She has the same as what we have for Zidane for Steiner as well, up here. Now Steiner's command script is similar to what we've already seen in Freya and Zidane's command script. We have this username pool at the top. We also have the basic attack command. Steiner, however, has another command up his sleeves. He can issue a charge, and that will force every character to attack at once, regardless of what their weight status is. So we're going to check an if statement here. S command, and see whether or not the value charge was written in the message. If that is the case, then we're going to trigger the action button for Zidane. That is ID 94. We're going to wait a little bit and we're going to check to see whether or not the win status has changed to 1. Because if we've already beaten Necron, we don't want to issue another attack. So after that, we then attack with Freya, check the win status once again using that if statement, and then we finally attack with Steiner. So once the command has been issued to any one of our characters, we need to carry out an action. So let's have a look at our action scripts and see what's going on in there. So here we are inside Zidane's action script. Now the action scripts for all 3 characters are very similar, so we're just going to go through this one and explain what's going on. The first thing we need to do is check whether or not Zidane is alive. So we have an if statement saying to check the variable Z life to see if the value is 1. If that is so, we then need to check whether or not there's actually a fight happening, because we don't want him just randomly attacking nothing. So we have another if statement checking the variable fight to see if that is equal to 1. We now need to figure out how much damage Zidane is going to do to Necron. The way we're going to do that is by assigning a random number in between 2 values to a variable. In our case, we are going to set our values to a minimum of 5,000 and a maximum of 6,500. We're going to write it into the variable Zidane DMG. We are then going to go and check our Necron variable. That's Necron's health. We're going to subtract whatever is currently written into the variable Zidane DMG. We're once again going to use that Zidane DMG variable in a chat message. So Zidane dealt whatever's written within the variable. We're going to create some text in OBS and we're going to write that variable once more into that text box and have it flash up on screen very quickly. Now, should an attack launched by Zidane manage to deplete Necron's health all the way down to 0, then we enter a win condition. So we're going to check and see whether or not we've done that after every hit. So, if statement, variable Necron, we're going to check his health and see if that is less than 1. Okay, if so, then we want Necron to disappear from OBS. We want to change our fight variable to 0 because the fight is over. We want to change our win variable to 1. There's a little chat message that will pop up here saying, nice ATB wait on Zidane. GG folks, you win. We then make sure that all of our character sprites disappear as the fight is no longer active. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to check how big our stack is, how many usernames we have that participated in the fight. We're going to take that number and we'll write it into the variable participant count. That participant count number will be the number of times we repeat reading from the stack. So we're going to check repeat participant counts. We're going to go into the stack and we're going to pull the top value from the stack. So we're pulling it out of the stack and we're going to write that to a variable called winner. They'll then put a little chat message into the chat saying add points to variable winner. So whatever the username stored in winner currently is, 3000. We'll then wait a second and do the next repeat. So the next name in the stack will get written to the winner box. The message will go out featuring their username and points will be added to their account. So there you have it. That's how I managed to program a game into OBS using Lioranboard. What do you think you could do using Lioranboard? Leave a message in the comments down below. And if you've enjoyed this video, please do leave a like and consider subscribing for more.